This morning's project is going to be this 2000 F250 we just picked up. Extra cab, two-wheel drive. Guy tells me the 7.3 was running real rough and intermittently dying. They've done some work to it. We're going to kind of evaluate it and see what we got. They had to come in on the hook, that's my homemade hook for attaching to the D-rings and towing these bad boys home. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. We'll do an oil change because it was really low on oil, and prime the high pressure oil pump, see what we get, and get her running and see what we got to work with. So let's get to it. Alright, well, at first glance everything is pretty wet under here, but they did tell me that they spilled a good little bit of diesel checking the fuel filter and got the valley all wet, so that could be part of it, but we'll have to clean it up and see what we got going on. But for right now, we're going to change this oil and see do a little examination. Anybody says we got too small of an oil pan, don't worry about it. We're only supposed to have about a gallon of oil in it. So we're going to catch that oil there, and I cheat a bit when it comes to these oil filters. When you've been covered with oil from one of these guys, you learn to pop a hole and let it drain. Alright, we're gonna let this drain. Put some new oil, put the fresh oil filter, change the oil in it, put 3.5 gallons in her, see what we got. See how she likes that. So we'll get back to that after we get this oil drained out. Okay, so since this thing had no oil showing on the dipstick, unless the truck moved around a little bit and you got just a barely little tip drop of oil, it was probably only had about a gallon or a little more than a gallon in it. So I'm thinking that the H-pop reservoir might be low too. So we're gonna go ahead and squeeze bottle some oil in the H-pop reservoir and top him off with fresh oil. We already put the plug back in and put the oil filter back on. All right, let's get her on the ground where we can get level. We got all the oil in her. H-pop primed up. Let's pick her up and get her back on the ground. These blocks out. Alright, let's see where we at oil wise here. get some fresh oil in it, get her cranked up and see if she's throwing any codes. Could have just been low on oil. But she still needs some. We only put 3 gallons in her. She's almost to the add mark, but we're gonna get her good and full. They said they opened up the oil filter housing to run the key on pump to see whether or not it would fill up and make sure the pump was pumping while they were trying to diagnose it. But got diesel all over in the valley, and there's diesel or oil all over in the all over the underside of the truck. Good news is she ain't gonna rust, but the bad news is we're gonna have to clean her up. And we gotta figure out what's got the old girl in a bad mood first. So we're gonna see what it is. Alright, well that's in the safe, so we'll leave that alone for a minute. Got good coolant. Actually, we'll leave this. Oh. While we got everything up, check out our power steering. That looks good, but it's dripping all over every doggone thing. They didn't have that closed all the way. Alright. Let's do a cold start. See what she looks like. Try and get a close up here, just see what's going on. Our numbers are not quite in whack. We cranked it and it was running about 1900 on the PSI on the injector control pressure regulator, and it's walked its way down to about 1150, but that's really supposed to cold be about 700 and be about 500, so we're gonna let it run a little while. It did trigger a code or two. We're going to check that out too. Alright, well here's our array of codes that we're getting. Throttle switch, glow plug, cam doesn't really matter, that's from unhooking the batteries, water and fuel, injector control pressure high, low, and IDM code. So that gives us a few things to look into. Alright, well I just got her up to running temperature, or warmed up, and revved her a few times. I got a relay that's acting funny. We may have to look into. It's either in the fuse box or the relay. But injector control pressure is leveling out where it's supposed to be for normal running. And if you'll pardon the walking around, but it sure is sounding pretty good. But we still have a lot of codes to look into, so we're going to check into it and get back. Interesting problem. Let me turn the key on here. Watch the gauges. We don't have any beepers. The vacuum pumps are on. If you come down here and press on this, we get gauges. You let off and you lose the gauges in the buzzer. Press down on it. I'll have to figure this one out to check the contacts. I already swapped the relay. That didn't make any difference. It's either a contact thing or maybe in the fuse box.